There is an interesting concept in finance, and that's the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy. So instead of believing in completely rational markets that all prices are completely efficiently determined, we instead think that maybe the majority of market participants believe something, and that belief can turn into reality. Because how else can we explain things like this? This is the Solana dominance. So how much of all of cryptocurrency's market cap is currently in Solana? And is it really a coincidence that those tops align so well? Or could it be the case that enough people look at this chart and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that the people that trade around this area rather want to take profit, thus sell, and that the people that consider buying maybe wait a little bit longer because in the past we always turned around. So if enough people think we are high, we might indeed be high. Or have a look at this. This is the Ethereum dominance. How much of all of crypto is in Ethereum? I do not think that the recent bounce that we saw in Ethereum, where Ethereum outperformed everything else, is a coincidence. So many people looked at this chart, and so many people had the September 2019 low as a reference point. And if enough people think that after a month-long bear market we are finally cheap, then the investors that had suffered during that move might just continue holding because we're already low anyways. The other people that want to do a speculative bet, they might buy exactly at this point. Thus, demand is higher than supply. Thus, the price indeed bounces. The prophecy is self-fulfilling. And so I don't believe in efficient markets, especially in crypto, especially in a market where it's player versus player, where a lot of retail investors are engaged as well. I don't think that people try to make fundamental analyses trying to figure out, is Ethereum really cheap now relative to its total value locked or relative to its transactions? And everybody does cash flow projections over the next 5 or 10 years. I don't think this is what's driving demand and supply, and thus it's not driving the price. Instead, psychology is driving the price. Now this is Solana relative to Ethereum. We had a massive collapse during the bear market, which was reinforced by FTX closing down. Then we had a nice rally due to meme coin trading and pump.fun. And in the last year, we are trading in somewhat of a stable range. And the big question is, will this support hold? So is this the right time to buy Solana? We're trying to answer this on this video based on data most people are not looking at. I'm covering Solana regularly on this channel. So the last video was published just 5 days ago, and this did outperform the average video on this channel by 88%. So there's definitely still interest in Solana. It's not like people have given up on the chain, but there is an important change. This is the trading volume of pump.fun ecosystem tokens over time. So pump.fun is the launchpad of meme coins on Solana, and this is what helped Solana come out of the bear market. This is what helped attract so much capital. But unfortunately, that's going down since January of this year. The non-pump.fun ecosystem token transactions continues to rise. We can, by the way, ignore the latest data point. Meme coin trading was a nice accelerator, which is now shrinking. Outside of the ecosystem, Solana is still growing though. Now, in the last month, the total value locked change, so how much capital is flowing in and out of the chain, that went down by 11%. Ethereum did better, the Binance Smart Chain as well. Only Tron did worse. But again, Solana was one of the very few blockchains that was able to reach new all-time highs in capital compared to DeFi summer. So during DeFi summer, Solana peaked at roughly 10 billion of total value locked, but with the pump.fun ecosystem, it went to 11. Ethereum, on the other hand, did not reach a new all-time high in its total value locked. Now there is quite a bit of fluctuation, and the question is, what is causing that fluctuation? I think it's mainly trading of the Solana token itself. It's not adoption of decentralized finance, because when we look at that total value locked, not measured in US dollars, but measured in SOL, in Solana, this is going up. We don't have all of that fluctuation once we look at the total value locked in SOL. So we have continued growth of the decentralized finance protocols. The decentralized exchange trading volume also stays at a relatively high level if we measure this in Solana, not in US dollars. 2025 has clearly been much more active than 2024, which in turn has been much more active than 2023, which in turn has been more active than 2022. So there is constant growth. Here are the chain fees generated on Solana. Of course, this peaks a lot when there is short-term trading on pump.fun. And as we've established, that's coming down. Thus, the chain isn't as much bottlenecked. Thus, we've got less fees. But the app revenue stays somewhat elevated. So really, this crisis that we see in Solana, the recent price decline, is due to less activity on pump.fun. But everything outside of that ecosystem continues to grow, continues to get more adoption, both in terms of capital, but also in terms of usage of the protocols. Now, on this channel, I try to be as objective as possible. So I do show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And not everything is good about the Solana situation right now. Here is a data point I do not like. This is the stablecoin circulating supply. Since January of this year, we do not see more capital on the chain in terms of stablecoins. We can zoom out a little bit. Now we've got also DeFi summer, and yes, Solana was able to reach new all-time highs in the number of stablecoins. We do not have that much stablecoin growth on Ethereum either. So this is now the stablecoins on the ETH chain. We are at similar levels to DeFi summer, but at least we don't see this shrinking either. This chart tends to go down in the last weeks. This chart tends to be somewhat stable. The central question really is, what could drive the next wave of growth for Solana? Let's have a look at the protocols. So here are the largest decentralized finance protocols on Solana. Unfortunately, we see red pretty much everywhere for the last month, except over here for liquid staking and liquid restaking. That's interestingly enough going up. Here is the largest staking protocol on Solana, so Jito, measured in SOL, that's continuously growing. And here are all the major staking protocols on Solana. So again, Jito is here at the bottom. And if we add the other protocols as well, we've got nice growth. The only issue is that this staked Solana does not grow as quickly as the supply. Thus, Solana net is still an inflating cryptocurrency. We do need to see growth in adoption for the Solana price to go up. Because while the number of staked Solana went up to 44 million since August of 2021, the number of circulating Solana went up by 232 million. So only a fraction of the additional Solana that's now floating around is getting staked. We've got an annualized inflation of Solana of 4.3%, which is much higher than Bitcoin, which is at 0.8%, which is also higher than Ethereum, which is at 0.7%. So Solana needs to get more adoption than Bitcoin or Ethereum, relatively speaking, to outperform. Really, we do need to see that new use case because most of Solana is held by the whales. Imagine you hold $1 million worth of Solana. So at the current price, that's equal to 7,000 tokens. In that case, you'd still be part of this holder group over here that have less than 1/4 of the supply. 80% of the supply is held by people that have more than $1 million. So 10K Solana token here is the minimum. That's like 1.5 million or so. So Solana is really highly centralized. The whales dictate where the price is going. They might take profit as there's more and more retail coming in. But unfortunately, right now, retail interest is relatively low. Yes, this short-term chart looks very enticing. And I was considering as well to buy some Solana. But then I'm reminded how Ethereum is already bouncing and how there's likely going to be further outperformance, how Ethereum is likely going to do pretty well with all of that ETF demand. And so because of that situation, I wait for a bit. I don't have to pick the perfect bottom. I'm just waiting until first people buy into Solana and the momentum turns around again. Because there is a chance we might fall below that support. And then the question is, when can we buy again? Isn't it better to wait until a floor has been found, until we go back up again, and then maybe not take the entire rally, but parts of it? That's a bit safer. That's at least how I personally will ride this wave. I try to take the risks where it makes sense, and I don't have to buy the exact bottoms all the time. It's fine. There is a chance we go a bit lower and then bounce. And the accelerator for such a bounce could be a Solana ETF. There are already rumors around this that in 2 to 3 weeks we might get an approval of a Solana ETF. This hasn't yet been priced in. And so if we go just a little bit lower, I might take that opportunity. And then of course the upside potential is even better and Solana could outperform by 50% or more. Now, what is the likelihood of outperforming Bitcoin by buying an altcoin and holding it for 1 year? So let's say we are in a bull market, let's say Bitcoin went up. How likely is it, let's say we pick an altcoin in the top 100, that we're actually going to do better than just buying Bitcoin? We would expect that likelihood to be above 50%, right? Because when the market as a whole is going up, the altcoins are smaller, right? They should be more volatile. They should go up even further. So probably more than half of the altcoins should go up when Bitcoin went up as well. But here's something you don't see other crypto YouTubers talk about. What we've got over here is the top 100 altcoins in terms of market cap. And over here, we've got Bitcoin. And we can count the number of altcoins in the top 100 that did better. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There were 18 altcoins that did better than Bitcoin, then there's Bitcoin itself, and there's 81 altcoins that did worse. So during a time when Bitcoin went up by more than 50%, more than 80% of the altcoins did worse. So again, here are the better performers, here is Bitcoin, and here are all the altcoins that did worse than BTC. Now let's have a look at the altcoins that are smaller. So not in the top 100, but from 101 to 200 in terms of market cap. How many altcoins performed better than 51.8%? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 100 altcoins in that lower tier performed better than Bitcoin. 93 did worse. Let's go another tier down. So this is now the altcoins from 200 to 300. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 altcoins that did better than Bitcoin and 92 that did worse than BTC. In other words, just because the market is going up doesn't mean that the altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. Most of the time, even during a bull market, the vast majority of altcoins is doing worse, and there's a good reason for this. The first reason is interest by retail. There are fewer and fewer retail investors speculating on crypto, and there's more and more money flowing from Wall Street into crypto. Now, Wall Street doesn't buy the altcoin that is place number 400 in terms of market cap. Wall Street buys Bitcoin and Ethereum. The time to speculate with altcoins is when a lot of new people enter the space, when the number of search queries is going up. Have a look at the social metrics. This is the altcoin daily channel. The number of views is close to all-time lows. Here's the number of newly gained subscribers on Crypto Banter. Here's the number of views on Coin Bureau. And so the riskier parts of the market tend to shrink. For example, there's the pump.fun ecosystem, right? The launchpad of meme coins on Solana. The fraction of trading that happens through pump.fun tended to decline. We had our initial expansion, but since November of last year, less and less of trading on the Solana chain is pump.fun related. The Bitcoin dominance continues to go up, and historically it only went down when it was close to 70%, potentially even higher, 72, 73%. When Bitcoin dominance is going down, that means the altcoins are outperforming. But this is not happening since September of 2022. It's the Wall Street money that currently supports crypto prices, and mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum. The fundamental reason why altcoins tend to do worse than Bitcoin and Ethereum most of the times is tokenomics. It's unlocks of supply, it's the early investors getting paid out, it's the team getting paid out, and it's the demand for the altcoin not growing to the same proportion. Have a look at this here. This is IMX or Immutable X. It had massive increasing supply over time. And so there's no surprise that IMX underperformed Ethereum by 86%. Now this is a logarithmic chart. Here's the same thing on a linear chart. Now have a look at this. This is SAY network. It went from 1.8 billion SAY to currently 4.3 billion. So the supply 2.5x'd. And of course the demand doesn't grow as quickly. And then we see an 80% underperformance. That's then a very common development. Or over here, we've got Arbitrum. It went from 1.3 billion tokens to currently 4.3, so more than a 3x in supply. And again, Arbitrum relative to Ethereum underperformed by 85%. And those kind of charts are not cherry picked, right? Again, the vast majority of altcoins underperforms Bitcoin and Ethereum most of the time, even during a bull market. And that's because of the token inflation. All of the insiders and early investors, the VCs, they make money when this is going down. But we can also make money when this is going down. We do not have to be a venture capitalist or an insider or a Web3 developer in a crypto team. Instead, we can make money from those relative valuations by using decentralized finance or by using perpetual futures on decentralized finance perp exchanges. What you're seeing over here are tutorial videos of the premium membership. So the link is down below. It's thebitcoinstrategy.com. And so I like this strategy a lot during this current market environment. If retail interest suddenly spikes up again, right? If the social metrics go up, if the views on YouTube go up, I will notice this very quickly. And then it might make sense to buy the small altcoins again. Currently, we are not in that market. Why not take advantage of Bitcoin dominance continuing to climb while all of those insiders make money with the token inflation and while all of those tokens tend to do worse? We don't have to find the needle in the haystack. We don't have to find the next Giga token or the next Oxycoin or the next Cheems. We can just bet on all of those other tokens doing worse. We can basically flip this chart. So instead of losing 90% of the time, we can win 90% of the time. It sounds unrealistic, but it's really true, right? Just flip this chart. If you bet on falling prices during times like this, you're making money. And of course, I'm also sharing my own trades. So here's one from April 30th. Of course, I'm not sharing the most recent trades, but here is a trade where I shorted the Trump token. So that was the chart at the time. And then afterwards, surprise, surprise, it tend to go down because the Trump tokenomics are very bad as well. The supply increases very consistently. Or have a look at this. This is WorldCoin that I shorted on May 23rd over here with this chart. Again, I'm sharing this directly in premium in a dedicated channel, the Gerhard's Trade channel. So this chart turned into this chart. We are close to all-time lows. This WorldCoin trade specifically was very nice for the community. Just have a look at all of those copy trades. If you have proper risk management in place, you can make very nice percentage returns as well. I started with this strategy on the Hyperliquid platform 2 months ago. We are now at 9K unrealized P&L and we are betting on relative valuations. So we go long Ethereum and we go short many altcoins. And again, we can have the odds in our favor. This is also psychologically much easier than trying to find the next 10x token. First of all, it's very hard to make a 10x in this market, but also when you're trying to get that much into risk, then it's impossible to not have losing trades. So there will be a lot of losing trades to then have hopefully one trade that makes up for all of the losses. But the issue is with such a strategy, we can't deploy a lot of our capital in a single bet. We've got all of that volatility with that strategy, so we can only bet a few hundred, a few $1,000s. But once we've got a strategy that outperforms more consistently, we can dare to deploy more capital as well. We are not hoping for the big breakthrough. Instead, we are constantly growing our capital. And we do this relatively quickly if we use leverage in the right way. Again, we don't want to overlever. Of course, we don't want to get broke. But if we hedge ourselves against the general macro environment, the volatility isn't actually that big. So if you're considering to revamp your strategy, if you potentially made gains first and then lost it all, then maybe it makes sense to learn about these things. There is the premium membership. It's currently $125 per month. You will lock in that rate. So once the bull market comes back, I will increase the price back to $165. But if you're now subscribing, you get the $125 and you will not be affected by the future price increase. If the size of your portfolio justifies also to invest in a one-on-one call, then feel free to sign up for the yearly, not for the monthly subscription. You also get a discount of $250 per year. But again, there is the 1 hour Zoom call where you can ask me anything and where you can have a look at your assets, not just at crypto, but at asset classes in general. Now you should see a link to Premium directly appearing here on the screen. When you click on that, you will land on the sign up page. If it's your first time over here, feel free to subscribe. I publish these regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in Premium. Cheers.